Alright, what's up? I haven't done this in a while, which is record a video, but felt like doing it, so let's give this a try. I even set up a ring light for this, so real professional. Anyway, I was reading this book, or rather collection of short essay by George Orwell, and in it he refers to the Gadarene swine. And I'm not going to explain you the context, but he refers to this thing, the Gadarene swine. And I didn't know what it was, so I Googled what it is. And turns out the Gadarene swine is a story from the New Testament. And I'm going to tell you that story, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about it, or thought about it, when I first read about it. And then I'm going to tell you what the kind of official interpretation of that story from the Bible is. And then I'm going to tell you why all of this matters and why I'm telling you this. All right, so the Gadarene swine is a story from the New Testament, and there are different names for it. One name is the exorcism of the Gadarene demoniac. One of them is the exorcism of Legion, many different names, and there's also different versions. Because as for all old stories, depending on who handed down that story, there's different versions of it, slightly different versions of it. Anyway, here's the gist of it, and this is taken from Wikipedia. The story shows Jesus exorcising a demon out of a man and into a herd of swine, causing the swine to run down a hill into a lake and drown themselves. That's the story. It's basically 3 sentences or whatever. And I read that story, just that short synopsis of it, and I liked it. It just somehow resonated with me. You know, something about it I liked. And you know how you sometimes listen to a story, someone tells you a story, you hear about the story and you're like, cool story, nice story. And sometimes you hear a story and it resonates with you. And I think what that means is that you can see a deeper truth in it, or you can see a deeper relevance in it, or you can relate it to something that you went through, or it makes you think about something bigger, something deeper. You see something more in it than just the literal story that you've been told. And I think that's what people mean when they say something resonates. So this story resonated with me, and probably with many of you it won't, but with me it did. And it made me think about things, you know, and I think that's what a good story does. It makes you think about stuff. It makes you reflect. So I like that story, and what associations it created in my mind was that this man that Jesus comes upon, who is possessed by a demon, is an evil person. It's a person who has let his evil side, which is part of all of us. There's no good or bad people. There's the potential for good or bad in all of us, and it's up to us and our actions whether we end up manifesting the good or the evil, or more of the good or more of the evil. And so this is a person who, through the choices in their life, ended up letting the evil side of themselves take over, and that's the demon, right? That's, I think, generally accepted that a demon is some type of evil thing, you know, pure evil. And this man is not a demon, he's possessed by a demon because he's not pure evil, he's also still a person. There's still some good in him, but he let that part of him take over and possess him. And so Jesus helps him, you know, overcome that and, you know, heal and, you know, get rid of that part of him. And he exorcises the demon, right? And he puts it into the pigs, essentially. And what that meant to me was that once you manifested evil and once you allowed it into life, you can't just get rid of it. It will run its course whether you like it or not, and it will create mayhem before it eventually, you know, ran its course and finally dissipates. And so that's why the evil ones possessed run down the hill and drown themselves and kill themselves, because that's what evil does. That's, you know, that's what evil is. It's the thing that makes you want to destroy and kill and create mayhem to yourself and the things around you. And so that's why the pigs kill themselves. And what it also made me think is that maybe humans and people are the only thing, the only creature that can coexist with evil, right? Because the possessed man with the demon, he was possessed and he was going crazy and he was hurting himself and he was attacking other people and all of these things, but he was still living, right? He was still existing. He was still part of life, while the pigs, the second they got possessed by this, they immediately went and killed themselves. And maybe that's what's unique about people, you know, like there's a great Instagram account called Nature's Metal, which shows videos of essentially animals killing animals, you know, like lions killing hyenas and hyenas pulling apart, you know, like a zebra or whatever. And you look at it and it's pretty rough, you know, it's pretty intense, but there's no evil in it, right? Because the animals don't kill out of joy, they kill because they have to survive, right? They need food, and so they kill for food, and it's pretty rough, but it's not evil. But people and men and humans, they manage to, you know, to kill for the sake of killing and to kill for joy and to kill unnecessarily when you don't need to do to meet your basic needs to survive, let's say hunting or something like that. That's also an association that I created with that story. So, you know, all of this is to say this is not what the story means, and this is not what you should think about this story. It's what I thought about this story. It's why it resonated. It made me think about people and the world and the nature of evil and myself. And again, I think that's what a good story does. And it's pretty incredible that this story did it for me, because it's like 5 sentences, right? It's like literally that short little thing that I told you in the beginning, that Jesus came upon a man who was possessed by a demon, and he exorcised it into a herd of swine, and the swine went and ran down a hill and into a lake and killed themselves. That's the story. That's pretty short. But yet it still, you know, created all sorts of associations for me. And for different people, will create different associations and different interpretations and different meanings. And for different people, this story will resonate not at all. And for other people, this story will resonate a lot. And so that is, I think, really interesting. Now, the second part that I wanted to read to you is the kind of official interpretation of the story from the Bible. So, and when I say official, it's obviously there's no official interpretation of the Bible, because there are many interpretations of the Bible, but there were certain authorities that were considered, you know, more authoritative than others on their capability to interpret this thing. And so this is the interpretation by St. Augustine of Hippo and Thomas Aquinas. And Thomas Aquinas is one of the major Christian scholars who, you know, wrote extensively on the Bible and what these stories mean, because the Bible is essentially just a collection of stories, of short little snippets handed down generation to generation. Someone decided to write them down. It's just stories, so it's not really like what this really means. It's not quite clear. And so he was one of the people who contributed massively to interpreting this sort of stuff. And so both of them, St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas, and this is again taken from Wikipedia, interpreted to mean that Christians have no duties to animals. What? I'm going to read you another part, and this is a quote. Classical theological commentary cited this story to argue that animals have no moral importance in Christianity. Okay. St. Augustine of Hippo concluded from the story that Christians have no duties towards animals, writing, and this is a quote, Christ himself shows that to refrain from the killing of animals and the destroying of plants is the height of superstition, for judging that there are no common rights between us and the beasts and trees, he sent the devils into the herd of swine, with a curse withered the tree on which she found no fruit. All right, so these two guys, decided that what this story means is that Christianity is telling you, and Jesus is telling you, that you shall not care about the lives of animals, because clearly he put that demon into the pigs who then killed themselves, and that you have no moral obligation to them. And that's what the story means. This is what Jesus is trying to tell you with what he did. And so my point is that I can see how you can arrive at this interpretation. I think it's a reasonable conclusion to draw from that story, but it's by no means the only way you can think about the story. Like, when I read this, I was like, what? Like, this is like the last thing that I thought about when I heard that story. And that's my point. The story is a story, and you can listen to it, and maybe it resonates and maybe it doesn't, and then you can think about it for yourself and make up your own mind of what you think about this. Maybe it has something to do with animal rights. Maybe it has something to do about the nature of evil. Maybe it has something to do about, I don't know. You know, it's up to you. You can decide. And, all right. So, why am I telling you this? You know, I think when I say this, I think I'm not the only person. I think I'm actually, most other people are like me, which is that I have never read the Bible. I have it behind me there on my bookshelf, and I started reading Genesis, but that's some intense shit and old language, so it's hard to read and concentrate on that stuff. But I've never actually read the Bible myself. So everything I know about Christianity is through interpretations of other people who tell me whatever the things in the Bible and the stories that are actually literally in there mean, right? And so this is just one example how there's a massive difference, right? Because you can either read that story that I read to you in the beginning, and it can, like it did for me, create some associations about the nature of evil and make you think about the world and, you know, yourself and stuff. Or you can read the interpretation, right? Some journalistic article about Christianity is telling you that it is moral to kill animals based on that story, right? Which is one interpretation of it, but it's not what it needs to mean, right? And so I think that's even more important as it comes to other religions, right? I've never read the Quran, but I have all sorts of opinions about, you know, the religion of Islam, not because I've actually read the work that it's based on, but because I've read all sorts of interpretations by other people of what these stories that are handed down in this ancient piece of work means. And so this is just one example how those are two very different things. And one reason why we shouldn't pay so much attention to interpretations and what people try to tell us what these stories mean, and rather just read the stories and make up our own mind. And maybe we get something completely else out of it. Maybe some of it is not so good, and maybe some of it is really interesting. And, you know, maybe there's something to those stories that, you know, are 5 sentences long and can make you ponder about the nature of evil. So that's just, you know, a couple of thoughts. This was probably a lot of gibberish. As I said, this was my first try at doing a video in a long time, but let me know your thoughts and whether you want me to make more videos like this, though I don't know what like this means because I've never made a video like this.